The Senate will come to order. I ask everyone present to please rise and recite the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. In the absence of clergy, let us bow our heads in a moment of silent reflection or prayer. Reading of the Journal.
In Senate, Monday, May 18, 2026, the Senate met pursuant to adjournment. Journal of Friday, May 15, 2026, was read and approved. On motion, the Senate adjourned.
Without objection, the Journal stands approved as read. Presentation of petitions, messages from the Assembly. The Secretary will read.
Senator Kruger moves to discharge from the Committee on Health Assembly Bill number 5383A, a substitute for the identical Senate Bill 7266, third reading calendar 394. Senator Kruger moves to discharge from the Committee on Commerce, Economic Development, and Small Businesses, Assembly Bill number 10525, a substitute for the identical Senate Bill 9543, third reading calendar 876. Senator Skoufis moves to discharge from the Committee on Health Assembly Bill number 3254A, a substitute for the identical Senate Bill 3958A, third reading calendar 1092. Senator Fahey moves to discharge from the Committee on Women's Issues, Assembly Bill number 6029, a substitute for the identical Senate Bill 2121, third reading calendar 1110. Senator Ramos moves to discharge from the Committee on Labor, Assembly Bill number 368A, a substitute for the identical Senate Bill 10057, third reading calendar 1116.
So ordered. Messages from the Governor, report to standing committees, reports to select committees, communications and reports from state offices, motions and resolutions. Senator Gianaris.
Good afternoon, Mr. President.
Good afternoon.
I'm tempted to begin session by asking for a moment of silence for the Buffalo Sabres, but instead we will just celebrate a hard-fought season. They gave us a lot of entertainment and look forward to next year. I do have some amendments on the following third reading calendar bills: by Senator Rivera, calendar 619, by Senator Bailey, calendar 706, by Senator Bailey, calendar 887, and by Senator Myrie, calendar 1027.
The amendments of those are received, and those bills will retain their places on a third reading calendar. Senator Gianaris.
I also wish to develop the following bills, which were recalled from the Assembly and are now at the desk. Senate numbers 1783B, 5049, 3207A, 1784, and 2091.
Secretary will read.
Calendar number 214, Senate Print 1783B by Senator Henchy, an act to amend the Agricultural Markets Law. Calendar number 514, Senate Print 1784 by Senator Henchy, an act to amend the Agricultural Markets Law. Calendar number 573, Senate Print 2091 by Senator Kavanaugh, an act to amend the Executive Law. Calendar number 392, Senate Print 3207A by Senator Kavanaugh, an act to amend the Public Health Law. Calendar number 299, Senate Print 5049 by Senator Bailey, an act to amend the Insurance Law.
I move to reconsider the votes by which these bills were passed.
Call the roll on reconsideration.
Adabo, Gianaris Kruger, Ort, Stukat, and Zellner, ayes 59.
Bills are restored to their place on the third reading calendar.
I offer the following amendments.
Amendments are received.
Please recognize Senator Mayer for an introduction.
Senator Mayer, for the purposes of introduction.
Thank you, Mr. President. It really is a delight to be here today to introduce a number of students from across New York who are here with the Students Inside Albany project of the League of Women Voters of New York State. These students come for several days. They get to shadow various members of the legislature, and I know many of us have them from our districts here today. They learn not only about what we do by watching us here on the floor, and I've explained to some of them about the process, but also by seeing what we do in our offices, how the chambers operate, the nature of the important issues that we discuss, and the fact that we have a collegial, cooperative, and yet full of disagreement body here that actually works quite well. This is the best of democracy in what they get to see, and we're very privileged to have them. From my district, I would like to introduce several students who are here. Kareem Hamami from the White Plains High School, Layla Hanbali from the White Plains High School, Rain Damasi from Mamaroneck High School, Samantha Goldband from Scarsdale High School, and Sean Rangrush from Mamaroneck High School. But I know many of my colleagues also have students here today. This is a wonderful program of the League of Women Voters. I do want to note that some of them noted that the bill that this legislature passed and the governor signed, appointing a student representative to every board of education in the state, has made a lasting difference both for students and for members of the board. I'm grateful to my colleagues for passing that bill. It was an effort to enhance civic participation by students and listening by adults, and I think it's done both, and their evidence of their presence here today just shows how many students are truly interested in our civic life. I hope you will give them the cordialities of the House, and thank you for letting me introduce them.
Thank you, Senator Mayer. On behalf of the State Senate and on behalf of Senator Mayer and so many of our colleagues, we welcome you on behalf of the Senate. We thank you for coming up. If this is your first visit, we hope it's not your last. Thank you for wanting to be educated. Please rise and be recognized by the State Senate. Senator Gineris.
And now please call on Senator Scarcella-Spanton for another introduction.
Senator Scarcella-Spanton for an introduction.
Thank you, Mr. President. It is my pleasure to introduce to Albany some Staten Island title holders. You may have noticed them walking around today in their crowns and their sashes. We had an amazing day. They all came to shadow me, so they got to go to the EMS Memorial, they got to come to a committee meeting, and just meet a few of you throughout the way as well, so we really appreciate it. Today we have with us Nadia Anwar, Miss New York's teen, Gabriella Marinelli, Miss Staten Island, Nadia Mitchell, Miss Richmond County, Victoria DiPaolo, Miss Staten Island teen, Alexis Ryan, Miss Richmond County teen, and we do know, I'm not going to forget to mention the moms here. We have Lori Anwar and Kim Ryan who are chaperoning them today. They're right in the background, and they deserve credit too. These young women truly represent the very best of our communities and families throughout Staten Island. I've had an opportunity to meet with them a few times, and I see them at more events than I am even at. I know my staff sees you everywhere too. They work on issues ranging from digital media literacy to veterans to breast cancer awareness and survivors and so much in between. I cannot wait to see what these young ladies do. And I will say it was truly a privilege and an honor to have them up here in Albany. We're going to do the same thing in the district as well, so you have a feel for every facet of government, but we appreciate the work that you do. And beyond the titles and the honors, you serve as role models for young people everywhere, proving that with determination, purpose, and integrity, anything is possible. So we are so proud to have you here. Thank you so much, and I pass it to you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator Scarcella-Spanton. To our incredible pageant winners, but also role models and students and young women making a difference on Staten Island and beyond, I welcome you on behalf of the State Senate. We extend to you all of the privileges and courtesies of this House. Please remain standing and be recognized. Senator Gineris.
And now Senator Sutton for one more introduction.
Senator Sutton, for the purposes of an introduction.
Thank you, Mr. President. I stand here today to recognize an extraordinary New Yorker whose commitment to service, compassion, and community has touched the lives of countless number of people, Mr. James Halpin. Mr. Halpin has distinguished himself not only through professional success, but through a deep and unwavering dedication to helping others. He serves on the board of the Florina Russi Mark Cancer Foundation, supporting families and advancing hopes for those suffering from this terrible disease. He also is the co-founder of Kids for Kids at the St. Jude's Children's Research Hospital, inspiring young people to lead with generosity, empathy, and purpose. His humanitarian work has earned national recognition from both the National MS Society and the Brian C. Halpin Pediatric Cancer Center, honors that reflect a lifetime devoted to lifting others up in their time of need. But perhaps what is most inspiring about James Halpin is that he sets us a living example, an individual driven by compassion and civic responsibility truly can make a profound difference in the lives of others. Thank you for your lifetime commitment. I am honored to welcome Mr. Halpin to the New York State Senate and recognize him for his leadership, his service as an enduring commitment to humanity. We thank him and we congratulate him on this well-deserved honor. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Sutton. To Mr. Halpin, we thank you for your love of community and supporting children and families. Welcoming you on behalf of the State Senate, we extend to you all of the privileges and cordialities of this House. Please rise and be recognized. Senator Janeris.
Mr. President, this time I move to adopt the resolution calendar with the exception of resolutions 2094 and 2104.
All those in favor of adopting the resolution calendar with the exception of resolutions 2094 and 2104, please signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay. The resolution calendar is adopted. Senator Janeris.
Now let's take up previously adopted resolution 1903 by Senator Jackson. Read that resolution's title and call on Senator Jackson.
Secretary will read.
Resolution 1903 by Senator Jackson, honoring the life and legacy of Dorothy E. Reed and commemorating her historic role in Brown versus the Board of Education on the 72nd anniversary of the Supreme Court's decision.
Senator Jackson on the resolution.
Thank you, my colleagues. Today I rise to present this resolution, J. 1903, honoring the life and legacy of Dorothy E. Reed, affectionately known as DOT, and commemorating the 72nd anniversary of Brown versus the Board of Education, one of the most consequential decisions in moral and constitutional history of our nation. I also rise to recognize the Reed family. The elders are down here, and the rest of the family is up there sitting, observing what's going on. But we welcome you to this chamber and deep respect and gratitude, because when we honor DOT, we are not only honoring a name in the record, we are honoring a daughter, a mother, a grandmother, a sister, a mentor, and a woman whose courage became part of America's conscience. 72 years ago, the Supreme Court declared what black families, student teachers, freedom fighters had always known. Segregation was not equal. It was not lawful. It was not moral. It was a system designed to wound the spirit and limit the future of a child. And Dorothy Reed, at age 14 years of age, had the courage to stand up against the system. As a plaintiff in Davis versus Prince Edward County School Board, one of the cases consolidated into Brown, and she helped compel this nation and its laws to recognize deeper truth, that education is not a privilege reserved for the few, but a public promise owed to every child. And this is legislative wisdom we must carry forward. Rights declared by courts must be protected by policy, funded through budget, and make real in the lives of all our schools. Dorothy Reed did not leave her courage in the past. She carried it into life, in faith, in family, in public service, including 28 years serving the people of New York State with compassion and dignity. To the Reed family, here and here, thank you for sharing DOT with the world. Her lessons endures. Knowledge is power. Family is the anchor, and justice, when carried by brave people, can outlive the wall built against it. And today, we place Dorothy E. Reed's legacy in the living record of this Senate where it rightfully belongs. May her courage continue to guide her work, shape our laws, and strengthen our obligation to every child still waiting for the full promise of equality. With that, Madam President, I ask you to please confer on these people the graces of office and, can tell them they're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Mayer on the resolution.
Thank you, Madam President. Thank you, Senator Jackson, and thank you particularly to the Reed family for being here. As the chair of the Senate Education Committee, I can't think of a more powerful moment than the fact that a 14-year-old student in a segregated community became the plaintiff in a lawsuit that went all the way to the United States Supreme Court and changed the history of American education for black and white children, and then for children of all races and all the diversity of America. It's fitting that we have young people here today to think about what it would be like for Ms. Reed at age 14 to have the courage and tenacity to face not only the school community, her own local community, her family's community, and to stand up for something as a matter of principle. That is a lesson for all of us to emulate. That is something that we need to take personally as a challenge to each of us to exhibit that kind of courage when we see racism and segregation as we do. We need to stand up as she had the courage to do. Thank you for her legacy. Thank you for her memory, her years of service to New York State. Thank you to Senator Jackson for acknowledging her membership in PEF, the Public Employees Federation, where she was so involved. We are very, very blessed to have you and to think about at a personal level what it took for someone to do that and how we are all forever indebted to her for her courage and bravery and her willingness to see a possibility of change. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Bailey on the resolution.
Thank you, Madam President. Thank you, Senator Jackson, for this really important resolution. Senator Mayer put a finer point on it. At the age of 14, I could not think of doing something as courageous and groundbreaking as setting the stage for the future 14-year-old me to be able to go to a public school, to merely be able to be educated. That's all what Ms. Reed wanted to do, to make sure that people had the opportunity to go to school. We weren't asking for civil luxuries, we were asking for civil rights. And that's really important to note. On Law Day in Bronx Supreme Court, I sat next to Judge Rowan Wilson, and there was a question asked by one of the moderators and said, what was the most important Supreme Court case that you've ever read? And the entire room, whether out loud or whispering or murmuring, said Brown versus Board of Education. The seminal case to make sure that schools were desegregated. And so this is something that me, as a publicly educated kid from kindergarten through law school, would have not had the opportunity if not for her courageousness and her fearlessness. So I thank her for her work, and I thank the family for continuing to keep her name alive. To the family, please continue to tell her story. It is important, and there are anecdotes about her that won't be written down in the history books. Please share those with society, as the griots would do in our culture. Please continue to share. Because our oral history is just as important as the written one. So, to Ms. Reed, life well lived, a legacy well done, and I vote aye on the resolution. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you. Senator Comrie on the resolution.
Thank you, Madam President. I rise today to support the resolution. I was surprised and honored to find out that Mrs. Reed lives in my district. I hadn't met her. I hadn't had that honor before. I was surprised that she was here today. I wish Brother Jackson had given me a minute so I could be better prepared. But nevertheless, this is an historic moment. It was truly a brilliant idea by Brother Jackson to bring Mrs. Reed here to celebrate and honor her for her legacy, for her desire. As Senator Bailey said, at 14 years old, not many of us would have had the fortitude or the perseverance or the focus to do such a thing as to be part of a protest, and then to continue that protest until it went all the way to the Supreme Court. So I just want to thank you, Sister Reed, for continuing to be a guiding light. Thank you to the Reed family for continuing to extol her name. I would ask all people here to take a minute to talk to Dorothy Reed, to take a minute to talk to your ancestors, because if it wasn't for your ancestors, we wouldn't be here in these hallowed halls today. If it wasn't for people like Dorothy Reed, we wouldn't have major changes in our community. And we need to get back to that, because there are people in the world that want to eliminate history, that want to change history for their own purposes. And we may have to go back to acting like Dorothy Reed, being unafraid to stand up, being unafraid to face the inequities in the world, and being a truth teller, no matter what it takes or no matter how hard that task may be, in order to make sure that the truth reigns. So God bless you, Sister Reed. May you have many more years of health and life, and thank you for coming to Albany today. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you. Senator Claire on the resolution.
Thank you, Madam President. I too rise today to thank Senator Jackson for bringing this very important resolution to us. You know, sometimes we take for granted the things that we enjoy now, and we forget what it took to get there. And when I see stories like Mother Reed's, it just reminds me, and it just makes me understand what we have to keep fighting for. I happen to sit in the seat that was once held by the great Justice Constance Baker Motley, the clerk for Thurgood Marshall, who brought the lawsuit for Brown v. Board of Education. And I just wonder what it was like, and I know others have said it, but for a 14-year-old, but not just the 14-year-old, think of her mother and father and family members who had to worry about her safety, about her mental and emotional health, going through this, carrying this load on her shoulders for all of us. So all I can say is that we have to keep being reminded of that so that we know the work that we have to do and that we have to keep on fighting for equality because someone stood for us and we have to continue to stand for others. I thank you. I thank the Reed family for all that you've endured, for all that you've been through, and for sharing this with us. Thank you. Please continue to tell the story. Please continue to share with others. Thank you. I proudly vote aye.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Webb on the resolution.
Thank you, Madam President. I too want to thank Senator Jackson for bringing this resolution forward. You know, I think sometimes we can forget these many courageous battles that were fought not that long ago. 72 years is not a long time ago, and we know most certainly in this chamber and of course across the state that education is that great equalizer to ensure that every single child that will go on to adulthood has an opportunity to thrive. And for someone who is extraordinary as Dorothy Reed, who knew that at the age of 14 and stood up strong, courageous, and said that she wanted to take a stand, not just for other children during her time, but for all children coming after her, this resolution is timely and is most certainly important that we continue to tell our stories. For me, I actually have a picture in my office that I've had for a very long time commemorating this very historic decision of Brown v. versus the Board of Education. And sometimes we think about and can lose sight of at times, to be completely honest, that we think that once these historic milestones were reached, that the proverbial trial by fire is over. Well, we don't need to look any further than even recent decisions in the last several weeks that are designed to push us back into a time where we have those adages of separate and most certainly not equal. But I'm really proud that in our chamber, we have a commitment to fighting back against those notions, and this resolution is a reminder and a call for us to not only examine the great life and the contributions and the courage of Dorothy Reed, but it is also a call to action for us to continue to fight not only for our children in the present, but most certainly those that are in the future. Madam President, we know that our public schools are essential for everyone, and this landmark Supreme Court decision not only lifted up an important challenge, but we also know we still fight here in New York with many issues still with respect to segregation in our schools. And so it is so important to pause today to not only remember Dorothy Reed, but also for us to continue to push for more equitable funding for all of our public schools, and most certainly policies that ensure that every single child, no matter zip code, race, ethnicity, has an opportunity to a quality education. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Senator. To our guests, may we all have the courage, tenacity, and spirit of Dorothy Reed. I welcome you on behalf of the Senate. To the guests who are sitting in the chamber, Ms. Bertha Sims, Jacqueline Richardson, Natalie Sims, and Dr. Delora Castro, we extend to you the privileges and courtesies of this House. Please all rise and be recognized. The resolution was adopted on April 21st. Senator Gineris.
Thank you, Madam President. Let's take up previously adopted Resolution 2082 by Senator Webb. Read that resolution's title and call on Senator Webb, please.
The Secretary will read.
Resolution 2082 by Senator Webb, commending Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated upon the occasion of its annual Delta Day at the state capitol in Albany, New York on May 19, 2026.
Senator Webb on the resolution.
Thank you, Madam President. I rise proudly today as a member of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated to speak on this resolution. Now, you may have seen a number of folks in our Capitol today. You may have seen some red, some purple. No need to worry. That's just Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated and the Brothers of Omega Psi Phi fraternity here in our state capitol. Madam President, I want to thank our Senate Majority Leader for supporting this resolution to commemorate Delta Day here in our state capitol. We have affectionately coined today, and this is the first time that we've actually done Delta Day with the Brothers of Omega Psi Phi fraternity. And so we have coined our advocacy day today as Coleman Caucus Day here in the state capitol. In 1913, Delta Sigma Theta was founded on the Howard University campus by 22 women who wished to promote academic excellence, provide scholarships, and support to the underserved, to educate and stimulate participation in the establishment of positive public policy, and to highlight issues and provide solutions for problems in our communities. Now, this great sorority that, again, was founded on the principles of not only service, but also excellence and many other important aspects, Delta Day is an opportunity to lift up important policies and advancing more progress for our communities across our great state. And as I mentioned at the top of my comments that we are joined by the Brothers of Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated, I also want to lift them up as well. Omega Psi Phi Fraternity was founded on November 17, 1911, on the campus of Howard University in Washington, D.C., by 3 undergraduate students, Edgar Amos Love, Oscar James Cooper, and Frank Coleman, with faculty advisor Dr. Ernest Everest, just to promote scholarship, perseverance, to uplift, and also manhood. Whereas since their founding, this great fraternity has grown into an international organization with chapters all over the world, and they have such notable figures such as Langston Hughes, Jesse Jackson, Michael Jordan, and numerous leaders in public service. Now back to Delta. If you know what I'm talking about. All right, so again, I'm so proud to be a part of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated because not only do we take the work of policy very seriously, we do it through our 5-point programmatic thrust programs that include things such as economic development, educational development, international awareness and involvement, physical and mental health, and political awareness and involvement. Today, Delta Sigma Theta has more than 350,000 members and approximately 1,000 chapters worldwide. Our sisterhood has been lucky to have incredible role models serve as president. Some of our notable presidents, and they all are very notable, I'll just lift up a few, include civil rights leader and icon Dorothy Height, Frankie Freeman, who's the first woman appointed to the U.S. Commission on Civil Rights. Other notable sorors from New York State are Dr. Hazel Dukes, who was the former president of the New York State NAACP conference, and an early and unwavering civil rights crusader. And of course, being here in the chamber, I would be remiss if I did not lift up the name of former U.S. Representative and former New York State Assembly member, the late, great Shirley Chisholm, who also founded our Black, Puerto Rican, Hispanic, and Asian Caucus. And as I said, Madam President, this list is not exhaustive. However, we have incredible sorors who are doing amazing work in every part of our great state every single day. I consider myself to be lucky to be a part of this great organization that truly serves with compassion, with courage, and most of all, resilience. Madam President, I want to again thank our Senate Majority Leader for supporting this resolution. I especially want to thank all of our social action chairs that made today possible, Soror Donna and Soror Michelle, who are here in the chamber, and of course our brothers from Omega Psi Phi, BJ and Brother Kirk. I want to thank every single member that is here today from all over New York. I won't shout out every single part of the state. We're going to be here for a while, but just know that our organizations are well represented and are doing the people's work, not just here for us in the Senate, not just in the Assembly. And I also want to acknowledge our sorors in the Assembly, Assembly Member Alicia Heineman, and of course, Rodney Spachette Hermelin, who are also making and doing great work in the Assembly. And our newest member here in the Senate, newly minted soror, Senator April Baskin from Buffalo. She is now a part of our great organization, and we've gone from 1 to 2, so our numbers are rising here in the chamber. But in all seriousness, thank you, Madam President. I proudly vote aye for this resolution, and I would like to ensure that we extend all the courtesies of our chamber to our guests that are here. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you. Senator Baskin on the resolution.
Thank you, Madam President. I rise today with such joy and appreciation for Delta Sigma Theta Incorporated and their presence in our honorable chambers today. I want to start by thanking Senator Webb and Majority Leader Stewart Cousins for bringing this resolution forward. And it is no secret to the Majority Conference, as the Senator said, I am now a new member of this esteemed organization. The conference greeted me this year on my birthday with a birthday cake of me at my new initiate presentation in which I was dancing and having fun. But, you know, this organization came into my life for all the servitude that they give to our entire country and the world. They have served me with such love and care and appreciation. And it came into my life at a time where I had begun to give up on the spirit or the thought of sisterhood. And so I stand here quite emotional looking at some of my line sisters who have come all the way from Buffalo, New York, and my sorors from all across the state of New York who are here today. Just know that God brought you into my life at a time where I needed you most. Greetings unto our beautiful members of Omega Psi Phi fraternity. Thank you for joining us here in Albany today as well. And to sorors Donna and Michelle for your leadership of this wonderful day. Delta Sigma Theta Incorporated was founded, as the Senator said, at Howard University in 1913. And in 1943, Delta Sigma Theta expanded to Western New York with the establishment of the Gamma Kappa chapter, a mixed chapter made up of both undergraduate and college graduates. By 1979, the organization had grown significantly, and that called for separate chapters, a graduate chapter, of which I am happy to be a member of. And that chapter is named the Buffalo Alumni Chapter, and it was established bringing a second chapter to the Buffalo Niagara region. More about my home chapter that I'm so proud of. Today, the Buffalo Alumni Chapter is led by our vibrant, charismatic, and dynamic soror Sharon Sanford. It's French. And we also take a moment to recognize the co-chairs of my local social action committee, Soror Babs Dawkins, and Soror Vanita Jameson is joining us here in the chambers as well. I also want to lift up, because I am a new member, the leader of my membership intake committee, Soror Joanna Rosier Johnson, who is joining us today as well. Today, when we were greeting and gathering this morning, a Delta Deer, that's an affectionate name that we give to our wisest and longest serving Deltas in our chapters, she turned to me and she said, "I've been a Delta for 70 years. And I responded, "Soror, that's so cool. I've been a Delta for 70 days. And she walked with me to the elevator and we talked about all of the things in between her time and my short time as a member of this esteemed organization. These women that sit here today, they are my sisters. They are members of an organization that they have an opportunity to serve our community in civics with events that instill leadership and power into communities that are underserved. There's something very special about Delta Sigma Theta that I just want to take a moment to talk about, and that's the 1913 Women's Suffrage Parade that happened in Washington, D.C. The white organizers segregated black participants from demanding that they march in the back. Defying this directive, the newly formed Delta Sigma Theta sorority became the only African American women's organization to march in the Women's Suffrage Parade that year, cementing powerful legacy and an intersectional advocacy of civil rights and sisterhood. The March 3rd, 1913 Women's Suffrage procession was strategically organized on the eve of Woodrow Wilson's presidential inauguration. And even though there were an organized group of suffragists, white suffragist women, who wanted to unify around giving women the right to vote, it was still apparent that there was racial tension amongst that group. Delta Sigma Theta prevailed anyway. Despite the discriminatory attempt to marginalize them, the 22 founders of this esteemed organization, who had only been founded at Howard University just months earlier, they chose to march anyway, using the national stage to fight for their mission and their rights and what they believe in. This internal decision led to so many intense conversations about feminism, about suffragists, and about race. And it all started with this organization that I am so privileged to be a part of. And I think about how the women, the 22 founders at that time, had to make a decision, despite the racial tension of that day, to prioritize the bigger picture. It reminds me of all the women who sit here in our chambers today. Despite all of the racial tension that is coming down on so many families, so many communities across this nation, around the efforts to erase the imprint and the efforts of Black leaders in this country, still, these women, these members of Delta Sigma Theta from across the great state of New York made a decision to step away from their families, step away from their work, and prioritize the vision and the mission of our organization anyway, just like our founders did. It is such a privilege to be less than 100 days old, a member of this esteemed sisterhood, but I am so very, very grateful, Madam President, for the lifetime opportunity to serve it. I proudly vote aye, and I leave my sisters with a ooh whoop.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Bailey on the resolution.
Thank you, Madam President. Happy Delta Day. I sit there usually, but can't go home if you give the Deltas your back, so I had to come over here to make sure I addressed you. First and foremost, thank you for all that you do in our communities. I'd like to apologize for younger me. When I was throwing up the Rockefeller sign, I didn't realize it was yours. You know, I wasn't trying to take away what you were doing. I was young and I'm a rap fan. I didn't realize what I was doing. But now realizing all that you do, I am honored that I get to do voter registration drives with you. I get to do social action campaigns. I get to be in the community, and everywhere you go in the Bronx and the city of Mount Vernon, there's a Delta. It's like there's an app for that, there's a Delta for that. You want a council member for that? We got a Lisa Copeland for that. You want a mayor for that? We got a Sean for that. We got Cynthia Turnquest Jones. We have so many amazing. I didn't forget you, Michelle. JSS is here. You know, she's representing her people. But Michelle, long time. We got labor leaders, and we have senators. And if there are no better recruiters for Delta Sigma Theta Incorporated than Leah Webb. Leah Webb is trying to make everybody in the city of Albany a Delta. Literally, she has a table outside, join Delta, she hands out pamphlets, she's trying to make a movement. A lot of people in the chamber read on today, that's not by coincidence, it's because of Leah Webb. But in all seriousness, I think that when you have that ebullient joy that both Senator Webb and Senator Baskin share, and the pride in when they say the word soror, it means a lot. It means a lot because this organization was obviously created under different times when we didn't have anywhere close to equality. But the founders of your organization thought it not robbery to create a sisterhood that would stand the test of time, and it surely has. And even though, as you well know, I'm a member of WDP, We Didn't Pledge Incorporated, that's my organization. We have lots of chapters everywhere. Today, yellow is the official color. Tomorrow, it might change. I always love and appreciate and treasure what every member of any Divine Nine organization does, because the trouble that you had to go through, the founders of the organization, what you had to go through to be able to get to such a point where you can shine like the diamonds, right, are amazing and important and incredible. So to you on this Delta Day and every day, I salute you in my district, I salute you in the Capitol, I salute you in Albany, and Leah Webb is going to get you 10,000 more members. I vote aye on the resolution.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Scarcella Spanton on the resolution.
Thank you, Madam President, and happy Delta Day. I love to see the sea of red every year in the hallway, and I could not agree more. Leah Webb is an amazing representative because she talks about this all the time. We were so proud to see April join. But I just wanted to say hello to my favorite Delta, my constituent, Michelle Achungpung. So I'm so happy to see you here. You know I'm always going to speak on this. But truly, I cannot thank the Deltas enough for every single community event. Michelle makes sure I know exactly what the Deltas do. You are there for our shredding event, for our back-to-school event, for our breast cancer screenings. You name it, when we call you for help, you are there. And I also have not pledged to anything. But what I do pledge is my deepest respect to every single one of you and the work that you do, because I couldn't do my job without the support of what you do to help our community. So thank you. I love you all. Happy Delta Day, and I proudly vote aye.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Comrie on the resolution.
Thank you, Madam President. I rise today to celebrate Delta Day in Albany. I want to behave myself. I am. Senator Bailey messed me up with saying I had my back turned to you, so I'm going to apologize offhand. But thank you for consistently coming to Albany. Thank you for consistently being a force, not just in Albany, but throughout the state. I'm honored that the Queens alumni, Deltas and Queens are a powerful group, consistently working on major issues in our community, consistently representing the best of what we have, whether it's through tutorial programs, through scholarships, through presence in our schools. Our previous speaker mentioned that we have 3 elected officials, all women that are Deltas, Assemblymember Hyman, Dr. Natasha Williams, and Sylvina Brooks Powers, the 2 council members of Delta. So I'm surrounded by Delta. I'm enveloped by Delta. I want to thank the Omega Psi Phi fraternity for coming and supporting their sisters. I'm actually an Alpha Phi Alpha fraternity. And I just want to say that it's the Greek fraternities that have made a real difference in our communities. They have created the middle class. They've supported and sustained people in many different ways. They're consistent in trying to make sure that our communities can stay strong. And I appreciate, again, the Deltas for coming up. And Michelle, it's good to see you here. You're always in Queens. You should move to Queens and leave Staten Island. That's another story. But I know she'll never leave Staten Island, Jessica, even though she's in Queens almost every Sunday. But she's just a great person. She cares about this city in many different ways. She deserves to be honored in her own right in this chamber at another day. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Parker on the resolution.
Madam President, I rise as a proud member of Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity Incorporated to welcome you all on Delta Day, and both to the devastating divas of Delta Sigma Theta, as well as to the brothers of Omega Psi Phi. We welcome you to Albany. We thank you for coming up. These organizations have been critical in the development of our communities. I know in a lot of majority communities, you hear fraternity and sorority, and you think about it as simply a college thing. We don't have the luxury of simply dropping our commitment to service to our community at graduation day. And so these organizations, particularly the graduate chapters, have bloomed in our communities and have been at the forefront of providing services around education, political development, social economic programming, and really standing in the gap for all of the needs that oftentimes arise in our community. I particularly want to point out, just as an African-American studies professor, that this notion that a group of young women, right? We also had an earlier conversation about a 14-year-old woman, paving the way for African-Americans in public schools. We now understand that this sorority was created on January 13th, 1913. And then by March 3rd, not even 3 months later, by March 3rd of the same year, they're involved in one of the most important marches and, exert themselves not to be relegated to the back of the line, right? And a time in 1913, right? And these are not, these are college students, right? These are college students, who are standing up and saying that we must take our rightful place. We must make space at a time when, African Americans generally, let alone African women, did not necessarily have place in our society the way that they should. And so we honor these women. I want to mention my Congresswoman Yvette Clarke, who is a member of the Brooklyn Alumni Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta. We happen to have two chapters. Brooklyn is so special. We have two Delta Sigma Theta chapters. We have East Brooklyn and Brooklyn Alumni. And both of these chapters of Delta Sigma Theta are very, very active in our communities, providing all types of community service. One of the things that they do a lot of, and we'll be doing it, of course, more now, is voter registration and voter engagement to make sure that some of the things that are being done nationally are met with resistance. And there's no group that has been more active than Delta Sigma Theta on these issues, and really have kind of led the D9 in making sure that we are present in state houses and in the U.S. Capitol, make sure that African-American voices are heard. And so here on Delta Day, we thank you, we acknowledge you, we appreciate you coming up. Remember that if you come to Albany, you may not get what you want, but if you don't come, you're definitely not getting it. And so we appreciate your time and not seeing it robbery to use your time, energy, and your effort to make sure that our political and legislative agendas are being pushed in the proper way here in Albany. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator Parker. Senator Clear on the resolution.
President, I'm proud to stand today in support of this resolution and thank our sister, Senator Webb and April Baskin for bringing this forward. As everyone has already said, the Deltas contribute so much in our communities every day. And they're not just here on Delta Day, they come on other days to lift up issues that are important to our communities. They're always present in my community with back to schools, as was mentioned, food giveaways, voter registration drive, and very recently, Dr. Lena Green, a Delta Sora in my district, got me to partner with a period poverty event in my district where we're fighting against combating period poverty. So I'm very proud to have so many deltas in my district. Hazel Dukes was mentioned and lifted up already. We have so many sisters that are doing this work. And though I'm wearing the red today, I didn't know, I'm sorry. I'm not a Delta, but I got this red on, and just this is what happened today. But I find myself with sorors all the time because you're doing the work. You're doing the social action work, and I'm always in your company and very proud to be so. And I can't take my seat today without lifting up the Omegas, my pastor, Johnny Melvin Green, who is a proud Omega, and always letting us know. So y'all are also active, and we appreciate our brothers, our fraternity, and all the good work that all the Divine Nine is doing in Harlem and all around the world. I probably vote aye.
Thank you, Senator Clear. To our dynamic Delta guests, we thank you for your service, and I welcome you on behalf of the State Senate. We extend to you all of the privileges and courtesies of this House. Please, and the brothers of Omega Psi Phi, can't forget about them either. I apologize, brothers. We extend to you the privileges and courtesies of this House. We thank you for your service. Please rise and be recognized. The resolution was adopted previously on May 12th. Senator Liu.
Mr. President, at the request of the sponsors, the resolutions are open for co-sponsorship.
The resolutions are open for co-sponsorship. Should you choose not to be a co-sponsor, please notify the desk. Senator Liu.
Mr. President, please recognize Senator Lanza for a motion.
Senator Lanza.
Thank you, Senator Liu. Mr. President, on behalf of Senator Matera, on page 34, I offer the following amendments to Calendar 899, Senate Print 5932, and ask that said bill retain its place on third reading calendar.
The amendments are received and the bill retain its place on the third reading calendar. Senator Liu.
Please take up the reading of the calendar.
The Secretary will read.
Calendar number 123, Senate Print 4071B by Senator May, an act to amend the Public Authorities Law.
Read the last section.
Section 28, this action take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Adabo, Giannaris Kruger, Ort, Stewart Cousins, Zellner.
Senator May to explain her vote.
President, I rise in support of this bill, and I'm grateful to my colleagues for supporting it as well. There are about a dozen municipalities around the state, including the City of New York, the City of Albany, City of Buffalo, Cayuga County in my district, that are water and sewer authorities, but they don't have the power to regulate stormwater. And we know with the changing climate that flooding is getting more and more intense all the time. Stormwater is an increasing problem for town managers, municipal managers. And the way it works right now, if you live in and work in the City of New York, for example, you pay a surcharge on your water bill for stormwater management. But that is really inequitable because there are a lot of people who may use a lot of water if they have a dry cleaner or a laundromat or something like that, but they're not generating stormwater. But they're being charged a lot to manage stormwater. This will allow the authorities to target how they manage stormwater so that the people who are causing the problem are the ones who are incentivized to make changes, to put in green infrastructure, to do things to reduce the amount of water that they are sending out to flood their communities. And that will bring down the cost for everybody of managing stormwater. So I am proud that we are making this tiny but critical change to the authorities that these dozen municipalities have, and I gratefully vote aye.
Senator May to be recorded in the affirmative. Announce the results.
In relation to Calendar 123, vote in the negative. Senator Walden, ayes 58, nays 1.
Bills passed.
Calendar number 140, Senate Print 1633B by Senator Fernandez, an act to amend the Public Health Law.
Lay it aside.
Calendar number 180, Senate Print 6009B by Senator Baskin, an act to amend the general municipal law.
Read the last section.
Section 6 is action to effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Addabbo, GNRS Kruger, Ort, Swift, Cousins, Zelman.
Announce the results.
Ayes 59.
Bills passed.
Calendar number 194, Senate Print 4479 by Senator Ramos, an act to amend the workers' compensation law.
Read the last section.
Section 7 is action to effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Addabbo, GNRS Kruger, Ort, Swift, Cousins, Zelman.
Senator Ramos to explain her vote.
Thank you, Mr. President. Well, today we continue on our crusade to level the playing field for good employers. And as such, I am asking the Department of Labor to help report on the companies that have violated labor law and that need transparency in an open database so that we are able to know those who are the worst offenders. I mean, New York already has systems in place to debar entities that repeatedly violate labor standards from receiving state contracts and grants, but accountability only works when the public can access that information. And right now, that information is segmented and is kept separately. We want there to be one centralized place to make sure that our public dollars are not going to unscrupulous employers. I vote aye, and I encourage my colleagues to do so. Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator Ramos to be recorded in the affirmative. Announce the results.
Ayes 59.
Bills passed.
Calendar number 212, Senate Print 5382 by Senator Harkins, an act to amend the mental hygiene law.
Read the last section.
Section 2, this action to effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Addabbo, GNRS Kruger, Ort, Swift, Cousins, Zelman.
Announce the results.
Ayes 59.
Bills passed.
Calendar number 355, Senate Print 4832A by Senator Ryan, an act to amend the workers' compensation law.
Read the last section.
Section 2, this action to effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Addabbo, GNRS Kruger, Ort, Swift, Cousins, Zelman.
Announce the results.
Ayes 59.
Bills passed.
Calendar number 394, Assembly number 5383A by Assembly Member Boers, an act to amend the public health law.
Read the last section.
Section 2, this action to effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Addabbo, GNRS Kruger, Ort, Swift, Cousins, Zelman.
Announce the results.
Ayes 59.
Bills passed.
Calendar number 423, Senate Print 5265A by Senator Bailey, an act to amend the correction law.
Read the last section.
Section 2, this action to effect on the 1st of January.
Call the roll.
Addabbo, GNRS Kruger, Ort, Swift, Cousins, Zelman.
Announce the results.
In relation to calendar 423, voted in the negative are Senators Chan, Gallivan, Griffo, O'Mara, Ort, Steck, Tedisco, Walzig, and White. Ayes 50, nays 9.
The bills passed.
Calendar number 432, Senate Print 6954A by Senator Gennard is an act to amend the general business law.
The bill is high and will be laid aside for the day.
Calendar number 486, Senate Print 5310 by Senator Bailey, an act to amend the insurance law.
Read the last section.
Section 3, this action to effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Addabbo, GNRS Kruger, Ort, Swift, Cousins, Zelman.
Announce the results.
Ayes 59.
Bills passed.
Calendar number 617, Senate Print 7236 by Senator GNRS, an act to amend the penal law.
Read the last section.
Section 2, this action to effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Addabbo, GNRS Kruger, Ort, Swift, Cousins, Zelman.
Announce the results.
In relation to calendar 617, voted in the negative are Senators Ashby, Gallivan, Griffo, Helming, Lanza, O'Mara, Ort, Steck, Tedisco, Walzig, and White. Ayes 48, nays 11.
Bills passed.
Calendar number 719, Senate Print 9153 by Senator Cooney, an act to amend the alcoholic beverage control law.
Read the last section.
Section 2, this action to effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Addabbo, GNRS Kruger, Ort, Swift, Cousins, Zelman.
Announce the results.
In relation to calendar 719, voted in negative, Senator Martinez. Ayes 58, nays 1.
Bills passed.
Calendar number 728, Senate Print 9764 by Senator Sepulveda, an act to amend the domestic relations law.
Read the last section.
Section 2, this action to effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Addabbo, GNRS Kruger, Ort, Swift, Cousins, Zelman.
Announce the results.
In relation to Calendar 728, voted in the negative are Senators Kanzaner Fitzpatrick, Chan, Galvin, Griffo, Helming, Lanza, Martins, O'Mara, Ort, Rhodes, Steck, Sutton, Tedisco, Wozik, Weber, and White. Ayes 43, nays 16.
Bills passed.
Calendar number 751, Senate Print 8624 by Senator Myrie, enactment of the Civil Practice Law and Rules.
Lay it aside.
Calendar number 795, Senate Print 611B by Senator Stavisky, enactment of the Criminal Procedure Law.
Read the last section.
Section 2, this action take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Dabo, Giannaris Kruger, Ort, Stewart Cousins, Zellner.
Announce the results.
Ayes 59.
Bills passed.
Calendar number 812, Senate Print 8841A by Senator Rivera, enactment of the tax law.
Read the last section.
Section 8, this action take effect on the 180th day of child become a law.
Call the roll.
Adabo, Giannaris Kruger, Ort, Stewart Cousins, Zellner.
Announce the results.
Ayes 59.
Bills passed.
Calendar number 859, Senate Print 1185 by Senator Adabo, enactment of the tax law.
Read the last section.
Section 3, this action take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Adabo, Giannaris Kruger, Ort, Stewart Cousins, Zellner.
Announce the results.
Ayes 59.
Bills passed.
Calendar number 876, Assembly number 10,525 by Assemblymember Boras, and that to amend the Alcoholic Beverage Control Law.
Read the last section.
Section 2, this action take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Adabo, Giannaris Kruger, Ort, Stewart Cousins, Zellner.
Announce the results.
In relation to calendar 876, voted in the negative, Senator Martinez. Ayes 58, nays 1.
Bills passed.
Calendar number 883, Senate Print 6460B by Senator Claire, and that to amend the penal law.
Read the last section.
Section 3, this action took effect on the 90th day of child become a law.
Call the roll.
Adabo, Giannaris Kruger, Ort, Stewart Cousins, Zellner.
Senator Clear to explain her vote.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. President. Yes, human trafficking is among one of the most vile and despicable of all crimes. I believe that one of our foremost goals as a legislative body must be to eradicate this practice from the face of the earth, and I've consistently pushed a legislative agenda in accord with that goal. The bill before us today ensures that those who take advantage of individuals who are mentally disabled, mentally incapacitated, or physically helpless will receive greater penalties. I believe we must pair this approach with ensuring that we also take all preventative steps to ensure vulnerable individuals are protected at all stages of their life. I proudly vote aye today and encourage all my colleagues to do the same. Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator Clear to be recorded in the affirmative. Announce the results.
Ayes 59.
Bills passed.
Calendar number 908, Senate Print 8370 by Senator Fahey, and that to amend the education law.
Read the last section.
Section 2, this action take effect on the 90th day of child become a law.
Call the roll.
Adabo, Giannaris Kruger, Ort, Stewart Cousins, Zellner.
Announce the results.
Ayes 59.
Bills passed.
Calendar number 933, Senate Print 682 by Senator Martinez, enactment of the Vehicle and Traffic Law.
Read the last section.
Section 3, this action take effect on the 30th day of child become a law.
Call the roll.
Adabo, Giannaris Kruger, Ort, Stewart Cousins, Zellner.
Announce the results.
Ayes 59.
The bills passed.
Calendar number 955, Senate Print 10,043 by Senator May, enact to amend the Environmental Conservation Law.
Read the last section.
Section 2, this action take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Adabo, Giannaris Kruger, Ort, Stewart Cousins, Zellner.
Announce the results.
Ayes 59.
The bills passed.
Calendar number 963, Senate Print 10,072 by Senator Bottcher, enact to amend the Environmental Conservation Law.
Read the last section.
Section 2, this action take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Adabo, Giannaris Kruger, Ort, Stewart Cousins, Zellner.
Announce the results.
In relation to calendar 963, vote in the negative, Senator Skoufis. Ayes 58, nays 1.
The bills passed.
Calendar number 972, Senate Print 3883B by Senator Henchy, enactment of the Public Health Law.
Read the last section.
Section 3, this action take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Adabo, Giannaris Kruger, Ort, Stewart Cousins, Zellner.
Announce the results.
In relation to calendar 972, voted in the negative are Senators Chan, Lanza, Martins, O'Mara, and Wozik. Ayes 54, nays 5.
The bills passed.
Calendar number 974, Senate Print 4275A by Senator Kavanaugh, enact to amend the Public Health Law.
Read the last section.
Section 2, this action take effect on the 60th day of child become a law.
Call the roll.
Adabo, Giannaris Kruger, Ort, Stewart Cousins, Zellner.
Announce the results.
In relation to calendar 974, voted in the negative are Senators Ashby, Kazan Fitzpatrick, Chan, Galvin, Griffo, Helming, Lanza, Martins, Matera, Murray, O'Mara, Ort, Palumbo, Rhodes, Rawson, Ryan, Steck, Tedisco, Walzek, Weber, and White. Ayes 38, nays 21.
Bills passed.
Calendar number 993, Senate Print 6847 by Senator Comrie, an act to amend the administrative code of the city of New York.
Read the last section.
Section 3, this act shall take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Adabo, GNRS, Kruger, Ort, Stewart Cousins, Zellner.
Announce the results.
In relation to calendar 993, voted in the negative are Senators Ashby, Kanzeri Fitzpatrick, Chan, Gallivan, Griffo, Helming, Martins, Matera, Murray, O'Mara, or Palumbo, Rhodes, Ralston, Steck, Tedisco, Walzek, Weber, and White. Ayes 40, nays 19.
Bills passed.
Calendar number 998, Senate Print 6848 by Senator Webb, an act to amend the Agriculture and Markets Law.
Read the last section.
Section 2, this action take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Adabo, GNRS, Kruger, Ort, Stewart Cousins, Zellner.
Announce the results.
Ayes 59.
Bills passed.
Calendar number 1004, Senate Print 10111 by Senator Jackson, an act to amend the administrative code of the city of New York.
Read the last section.
Section 5, this action take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Adabo, GNRS, Kruger, Ort, Stewart Cousins, Zellner.
Announce the results.
In relation to calendar 1004, voted in the negative are Senators Ashby, Kanzeri Fitzpatrick, Chan, Gallivan, Griffo, Helming, Lanza, Martins, Matera, Murray, O'Mara, Ort, Palumbo, Rhodes, Ralston, Steck, Tedisco, Walzek, Weber, and White. Ayes 39, nays 20.
Bills passed.
Calendar number 1019, Senate Print 8848 by Senator Liu, an act to amend the judiciary law.
Read the last section.
Section 4, this act shall take effect on the 90th day and shall become a law.
Call the roll.
Adabo, GNRS, Kruger, Ort, Stewart Cousins, Zellner.
Announce the results.
In relation to calendar 1019, voted in the negative, Senator Walzek. Ayes 58, nays 1.
Bills passed.
Calendar number 1039, Senate Print 1011 by Senator Brooke, an act to amend the education law.
Read the last section.
Section 4, this act shall take effect on the 60th day and shall become a law.
Call the roll.
Adabo, GNRS, Kruger, Ort, Stewart Cousins, Zellner.
Announce the results.
In relation to calendar 1039, voted in the negative are Senators Galvin, Martinez, O'Mara, Ort, Steck, Tedisco, Walzek, and Weber. Ayes 50, nays 9.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 1059, Senate Print 5691B by Senator Borrello, an act to amend the town law.
Read the last section.
Section 3, this act shall take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Adabo, GNRS, Kruger, Ort, Stewart Cousins, Zellner.
Announce the results.
In relation to calendar 1059, voted in the negative, Senator Ryan. Ayes 58, nays 1.
Bills passed.
Calendar number 1066, Senate Print 8454 by Senator Steck, an act to amend the public officers law.
Read the last section.
Section 2, this act shall take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Adabo, GNRS, Kruger, Ort, Stewart Cousins, Zellner.
Announce the results.
In relation to calendar 1066, voted in the negative, Senator Ryan. Ayes 58, nays 1.
Bills passed.
Calendar number 1092, Assembly number 3254A by Assembly Member Dinowitz, an act to amend the public health law.
Read the last section.
Section 2, this act shall take effect on the 1st of October.
Call the roll.
Adabo, GNRS, Kruger, Ort, Stewart Cousins, Zellner.
Senator Skoufis to explain his vote.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I appreciate the support of many of my colleagues and the leader on this bill. There's a small but very vocal, as we all know, minority of New Yorkers who oppose bills like this that look to boost immunization here in New York and protect public health, especially as it pertains to children here in New York. And one of their primary arguments is often that it's their choice to not get vaccinated, or it's their choice to not have their children vaccinated. And my response always to that argument is that one's choice to extend their arm, that right, ends at the tip of the other person's nose. The choice to not get vaccinated not only is harmful to that child and to that individual, but to everyone around them, especially in congregate settings. In 2019, we did the right thing in this chamber, I would argue, and removed the religious exemption for vaccinations to attend schools here in New York, not the least of which there is no organized religion that argues against or dismisses vaccines. But we did it because it protects children and ultimately protects lives. And that's what we're looking to do here with this bill, extend that wisdom, that protection to children who are in congregate settings over the summer at camps. So I vote yes. I encourage a yes vote. And thank you, Mr. President.
Senator Skoufis to be recorded in the affirmative. Announce the results.
In relation to calendar 1092, voted in the negative are Senators Ashby, Councilor Fitzpatrick, Chan, Galvin, Griffo, Helming, Lanza, Martins, Patera, Murray, O'Mara, or Palumbo, Rhodes, Robinson, Steck, Tedisco, Walzett, Weber, and White. Ayes 39, nays 20.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 1103, Senate Print 510 by Senator Palumbo. On that, to amend the general business law.
Read the last section.
Section 2, this act shall take effect on the 30th day of shall become a law.
Call the roll.
Adabo, GNR, Kruger, Ort, Stewart Cousins, Zellner.
Announce the results.
In relation to calendar 1103, voted in the negative, Senator Walzett. Ayes 58, nays 1.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 1106, Senate Print 7007 by Senator Bino. On that, to amend the general business law.
Read the last section.
Section 4, this act shall take effect on the 90th day of shall become a law.
Call the roll.
Adabo, GNR, Kruger, Ort, Stewart Cousins, Zellner.
Announce the results.
In relation to calendar 1106, voting in the negative are Senators Ashby, Councilor Fitzpatrick, Chan, Galvin, Griffo, Helming, Lanza, Martins, Patera, Murray, O'Mara, Ort, Rhodes, Rawson, Steck, Tedisco, Walzett, and White. Ayes 41, nays 18.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 1110, Assembly number 6029 by Assembly Member Zakaro, an act on the public health law.
Read the last section.
Section 2, this act shall take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Adabo, GNR's Kruger, Ort, Stewart Cousins, Zellner.
Announce the results.
In relation to calendar 1110, voted in the negative, Senator Walzett. Ayes 58, nays 1.
Bill is passed.
Calendar number 1113, Senate Print 6023 by Senator Baskin, an act to amend the State Administrative Procedure Act.
Read the last section.
Section 3, this act shall take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Adabo, GNR's Kruger, Ort, Stewart Cousins, Zellner.
Announce the results.
Ayes 59.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 1116, Senate Print 368A by Senator, Assembly number 368A by Assembly Member Rosick, an act to amend the labor law.
Read the last section.
Section 2, this act shall take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Adabo, GNR's Kruger, Ort, Stewart Cousins, Zellner.
Announce the results.
In relation to calendar 1116, voted in the negative, Senator Walzett. Ayes 58, nays 1.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 1117, Senate Print 2481 by Senator Parker, an act directing the New York State Energy Research and Development Authority to study the feasibility of creating, storing, and transferring hydrogen energy.
Read the last section.
Section 4, this act shall take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Adabo, GNR's Kruger, Ort, Stewart Cousins, Zellner.
Announce the results.
Ayes 59.
The bill is passed. Senator Liu, that completes the reading of today's calendar.
Mr. President, please go to the reading of the controversial calendar.
Secretary, ring the bell. Secretary, read.
Calendar number 140, Senate Print 1633B by Senator Fernandez, an act to amend the public health law.
Senator Martins, why do you rise?
Mr. President, I was wondering if the sponsor would yield for a few questions.
Will the sponsor yield?
Yes.
The sponsor yields.
So I see in the memorandum of support, and it starts, Mr. President, with electronic health records improve the quality of health care by ensuring that every provider who sees a patient has access to their medical records, medical history. Critical part of what this body and this state has done historically is to ensure, Mr. President, that we have access to accurate records. And so I agree wholeheartedly with the sponsor in the justification insofar as that line in that first sentence. And then there's the but. And then it goes, but, and it goes from there. Can you tell us, Senator, why we would need to create an exception to that first phrase of the importance of the integrity of health records in ensuring health care for New York State residents?
Through you, Mr. President, right now, every New Yorker is not within the health records, the electronic health records. Right now, New Yorkers have a choice to either opt in or opt out. This is a conversation that they have with their doctors upon leaving and in their consultation. So New Yorkers right now have the ability to give everything or nothing. And many times they are choosing to give nothing and put themselves in the electronic health records because of past medical instances. And this is to your butt, I guess. This is needed because we're seeing people being put in danger, especially in the climate that we're in, where we see other states making laws that is criminalizing people for certain medical actions and medical needs, like abortion. That's a very known topic right now. So this bill gives that protection to the individual to prevent discrimination, to prevent maybe lack of care, because it's been found too that some doctors will maybe choose to not practice in best will because of that particular person's history or life choices.
Thank you, Mr. President. Through you, if the sponsor would continue to yield.
Will the sponsor yield?
Yes.
The sponsor yields.
So, Senator, what types of conditions or what types of procedures are being exempted through this bill?
Very small list, so it's not that you can choose whatever you want, but it defines as reproductive health services, gender-affirming care, sexually transmitted infections, HIV, alcoholism, substance use disorder treatment, and mental health care.
Through you, Mr. President, if the sponsor would continue to yield.
Will the sponsor yield?
Yes.
The sponsor yields.
And so, should this bill pass and should it be signed into law, would there be anything in the electronic records that would give an indication to a doctor who's reviewing those records that there had been records or information that had been removed or redacted?
Through you, Mr. President, the only past medical histories relevant to this particular doctor that they're speaking to will be shared. If you're going to see your dentist and they want to see your medical records, the dentist doesn't need to know that you had an abortion or that you're even a trans person. So to that particular doctor, there would be no information hidden.
Through you, Mr. President, if the sponsor would continue to yield.
Will the sponsor yield?
Yes.
The sponsor yields.
So let's take a hypothetical then. Let's say that a person is in an accident, has an emergency, and we'll get into what that definition is under your bill. But let's say that they're not able to communicate, so it isn't their dentist, it isn't their orthodontist, it isn't some other profession, it isn't a scheduled meeting that they chose to exclude that person from having those records. It's a doctor that maybe, in this case, let's assume is not their primary care physician, does not have the history of this patient, a total stranger is in front of them and they're trying to determine how best to treat that person. Will there be something in the records to indicate that there are records that are not there so that the doctor can inquire if they feel that it's appropriate?
Mr. President, this print that we have in front of us does have a clause that if in case of emergency, the doctor, probably in the emergency room, will be able to see everything.
President, if the sponsor would continue to yield.
Will the sponsor yield?
Yes, I will.
The sponsor yields.
And Mr. President, through you, that's precisely the question. How would that doctor, perhaps in the emergency room, know to ask? Will there be an indication, a notation in that electronic record to show that something has been redacted or removed so that the doctor can ask and actually get a full picture of the patient's condition?
So, through you, Mr. President, at this moment, that person could have no record at all on file, and that's addressing the point here. This person, again, like I said, some opt in, some opt out. If I'm in the emergency room and I never opt in, I never shared anything to be put in the electronic health records, the doctor would have the same information that we have right now. So this is allowing more information to be shared with a doctor or a healthcare emergency professional in these cases.
President, if the sponsor would continue to yield?
Will the sponsor yield?
Yes.
The sponsor yields.
No, I do appreciate that, but I just wanted to know, for purposes of the record we're creating, whether or not there's actually going to be something, since we're asking a different agency to create rules, whether or not it is your intention to have something in that record that shows and will actually be a trigger for a doctor to ask in the event that it's necessary.
Through you, Mr. President, right now this bill does indicate that DOH would be responsible for indicating when those needs or emergency moments happen and how to handle them.
Through you, Mr. President, if the sponsor would continue to yield?
Will the sponsor yield?
Yes.
The sponsor yields.
Is it the sponsor's intention that there be something indicated in the record so that a doctor can actually be able to ask for certain things? And Mr. President, through you, the reason I'm asking is, you know, if we have people, it's not just reproductive rights here. There are people with substance abuse issues. There could be someone who has mental health issues and who is a recovering addict, who the doctor should know is someone who is a recovering addict and therefore not prescribed, for example, opioids. The doctor has to have an indication of what's there in order to be able to protect the patient. Is there going to be an indication in the record to allow that doctor to know that something has been redacted and that they, if they feel it's an emergency, should ask for more information?
Thank you, Mr. President. Right now, in the cases of an addiction history, substance use disorder treatment, mental health treatment, that's already federally protected. So somebody can withhold that information from their medical professional already under federal law. So this is not changing that part of it.
Through you, Mr. President, if the sponsor would continue to yield?
Will the sponsor yield?
Yes.
The sponsor yields.
Now, with regard to the federal law and federal prohibitions, I think you're speaking to 42 CFR Part 2. You know, there have been some changes to that as well. And my concern in asking about that in particular is that although there has been a lessening specifically with regard to the federal prohibitions so as to allow for greater ability to get access to those records, we may be taking a step in the opposite direction here in New York through your bill and actually make it more restrictive and therefore providing less protections for our residents insofar as a doctor's ability to actually access those records. So yes, there are restrictions in federal law, but those changes have been made recently, I think in 2024, to actually allow for greater access, bipartisan changes to federal law that have resulted in, I believe, and they believe, greater access to those records. This bill would do the opposite. Do you see it the same way?
Through you, Mr. President. Even if the federal government decides to roll that back and to open it up, before this bill, New York already has those protections as well. So that would stand.
There have been studies.
Senator Martins,
I'm
are you
sorry,
on the
Mr.
bill or
President,
asking the yield?
Through you, if the sponsor would continue to yield.
Will the sponsor yield? The sponsor yields.
So in preparing the bill, Senator, did you have an opportunity to consult with hospitals, healthcare systems, perhaps emergency room doctors, physicians, and get their input with regard to the impact of restricting access to records as this bill would do?
Mr. President, yes, we have. And we've received a list of over 200 doctors and healthcare providers that do agree with this bill for the sake of protecting individuals as they explore healthcare options in New York and out of state. So I can give you that list if you want to read every 200 people that agrees with me.
Mr. President, if the sponsor would continue to yield?
Will the sponsor yield?
Yes.
The sponsor yields.
Senator, I've read the list. There are a couple of doctors, there are a whole bunch of healthcare professionals, there are social workers, nurses, and others. But there are literally thousands and thousands of doctors and tens of thousands of doctors in New York State. There are healthcare systems in New York State that have real concerns about this bill and the integration of healthcare records and how that may restrict the provision of healthcare. I was just wondering if you had spoken to any of them, aside from people who signed a letter and sent it to Chair Paulin in the Assembly and Chair Rivera here in the Senate.
Mr. President, yes, I have. And the only opposition is the tech companies that say that this is just something they can't seem to do, which personally I find to be an unreasonable answer, because as we see, technology is advancing very quick. Systems can create new ways of organizing and sharing information. We talk about it every day with AI moving as fast as it is. So that's the only opposition, which, again, in my opinion, is not a reasonable answer why we can't further protect New Yorkers with their information.
And through you, if the sponsor would continue to yield?
Will the sponsor yield?
Yes.
The sponsor yields.
Are you aware of the opposition from the Greater New York Hospital System or Hospital Association and Haney's Hospital Association of New York State? They have voiced and written memos in opposition to the bill. So, I mean, in keeping with that, two tremendous associations dealing with healthcare here in New York State, both have voiced opposition to the bill. Have you read their opposition and their memos in opposition? I can certainly perhaps make them available to you if you'd like.
Through you, Mr. President, yes, I have. And as I mentioned before, amendments have been made to the bill specifically to allow cases of emergency in the emergency room for information to be shared with that professional.
There's a section of the bill.
On the bill, Senator Martins, or
I apologize, Mr. President. Through you, if the sponsor would continue to yield.
will the sponsor yield?
Yes.
The sponsor yields.
So on page 7, lines 9 through 12, there's a section that says that nothing in paragraph A of this subdivision shall create an affirmative obligation on a healthcare provider to review non-codified data created prior to the effective date of any rules and regulations promulgated pursuant to this section. Does that mean that healthcare providers don't have to look at any records, written records, notes that may exist prior to this bill being enacted?
Thank you, Mr. President. Every interaction between a patient and the doctor, there is conversation, we believe and assume. And those conversations can share everything that the doctor may need to know based on what the patient feels comfortable with. And maybe in those conversations, the doctor is able to get more of a history of it. And that, I think, is an important part of someone's healthcare, being able to have a conversation and trust what you're saying and what is being received to move forward with your healthcare and the best care for yourself. Did I answer the question? What did you answer?
Through you, Mr. President, if the sponsor would continue to yield.
Will the sponsor yield?
Sure.
Sponsor yields.
Yeah, Senator, we hope that there's going to be that interaction between the patient and the doctor. The concerns are that so often there aren't. But that provision in particular speaks to not needing to review records prior to the enactment date of this piece of legislation. And there are concerns that by default will put an obligation on healthcare providers and doctors, therefore, to have to review those notes for their patients after this is enacted. Is that the intent?
Mr. President, no, it's not the intent.
Okay. Are you familiar with any studies in preparing for
Senator
this
Martins?
I'll ask the senator for one last question if she would yield.
Certainly. Will the sponsor yield?
Yes.
Will the sponsor yield?
Thank you.
Sponsor yields.
In preparing this bill, did you have an occasion to review any of the studies that have been done, and there have been extensive studies done, on the ability of patients to recall medications that they're on, to recite those medications accurately? I can go through a series of them if you like, but historically and consistently, these studies have shown that even when they are able to interact with the doctor, that more than 50% of patients just don't recall the medications that they're on, and therefore are not able to relay those to doctors. Hence, this push that we had here in the body to incorporate those into electronic health records so that the doctor would have those records and all of that information in front of them. Are you familiar with those studies?
Mr. President, yes, but I go back to my point that not every person has an electronic health record. So your hypothetical right now is I think, moot, because that person may not have an electronic health record and is only saying what they can remember.
Through you, Mr. President, on the bill.
Senator Martins on the bill.
I did promise that was my last question, so thank you, Senator Fernandez. You know, the whole purpose of electronic health records is exactly that, to make sure that for those people who do opt, and there's been a push that all records transition to electronic health records so that we do have a place where we have the integrity of those records, not to get people in trouble, just the opposite, to make sure that the doctors and healthcare professionals have a full history of that person's medical history, perhaps prescription history. You know, I am concerned, Mr. President, that we have classes of conditions or histories here that are being removed, some of them having to do with mental health, with substance abuse, and so very easily morph into critical prescriptions and medical histories being removed for the sake of putting that patient at risk. Now, Mr. President, I see in this bill that it is, at least nominally, in response to a Supreme Court decision here in the U.S., Dobbs. Many of us can agree that reproductive health is a right for women. There should be no stigma associated with that, and there certainly shouldn't be any stigma associated with that on the medical care side. But to say that we're going to change the ability of people to marshal their own resources, have accurate records, and the integrity of electronic records, which was frankly passed by this state simply so that people can have a medical record, a passport, a wallet that goes with them wherever they are in the world, I think it's a mistake. We have countries in this world where people travel, some right here in the Americas and Central America, where they don't have the same laws that we do here in the United States, certainly not the laws we have here in New York. Those laws existed in those countries when this bill was passed originally. There were no exceptions made with regard to criminality at that time, but yet here we are making those changes now. There are laws around the world that deal with issues that we feel uncomfortable with here in New York because of our commitment to human rights. But yet this bill, predicate for this bill, is a Supreme Court decision and concerns we have with other states in the country. As a lawyer, Mr. President, I know you are as well, due process in those states doesn't allow for someone to be prosecuted in those states for something that happened here in New York. That action has to take place in that state. So if a New Yorker goes to a state that prohibits something that would otherwise be allowed here in New York, their state, their rules, they will enforce their laws as they see fit. But there is no place in this country where someone who does something here in New York can be held accountable for having done that in another state. That's the way due process works. So if that is the predicate for this bill, if that's the reason that we're going to allow people to remove information and perhaps critical information from their medical records and not protect the integrity of those records, it's a mistake. And so either we're going to commit to having accurate records available for the safety, and I'll repeat, the sponsor's own justification is that it advances the health and safety of New Yorkers to have access to those medical records. And that means complete medical records. There is no but, and there should be none. And we shouldn't allow politics to interfere with our commitment to ensuring the integrity of those medical records and the safety of New Yorkers. So, Mr. President, I'll be voting no. I'll encourage all of my colleagues to do the same. And again, I want to thank Senator Fernandez for her answers. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Martins. Are any of the senators wishing to be heard? Seeing and hearing none, debate is closed. Senator Gianaris.
Mr. President, we have agreed to restore this bill to the non-controversial calendar.
On consent, the bill is restored to the non-controversial calendar. Read the last section.
Section 4, this action took effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Addabbo, Gianaris, Kruger, Ortiz-Coggins, Zalman.
Senator Fernandez to explain her vote.
Thank you, Mr. President. I feel like it's wrong to say that politics shouldn't make us do things or think and feel certain ways, because that's exactly why we introduce a lot of these bills in this floor. Politics does lead us to have to make changes into systems so people are not discriminated or hurt. And we are in a time, as I said before, where other states are attacking New Yorkers or vice versa. Someone has come from Louisiana, and I believe this has happened in Senator Hinchy's district. A doctor in New York was sued by someone in Louisiana because their patient came here for abortion care. Someone has maybe come from Texas to New York, got into a car accident, and hold on, my hypothetical is getting messed up. But the fact is that in other states, based on some of your healthcare history, choices are being made that are not fair and not right. And based on your scope of practice, whichever profession you're speaking with, that information will be shared. But certain pieces of information does not have to be shared with a professional that is not in that scope of practice, where the things don't intertwine. So this bill is important to anyone who does visit their doctor and is unsure whether they can be honest without putting themselves or their provider or their private medical information at risk. The legislation is clear, and it informs patients of their rights. It allows them to protect the sensitive health information, and it helps ensure that people can seek care without the fear of their personal medical information being used against them. I vote aye, and I urge everyone else to vote aye. Thank
Senator
you.
Fernandez to be recorded in the affirmative. Senator Canzoneri Fitzpatrick to explain her vote.
Thank you, Mr. President. Our job here in this body is to protect our constituents. People outside this state are not my concern. People that I represent are our concern. The definition of reproductive health care includes contraception. That means that every woman that takes birth control is at a risk of blood clots. That also interacts with other medications that may increase your risk of blood clots. Therefore, you are withholding information from a doctor that potentially affects the health of a woman. A woman who's on birth control shouldn't even take Advil, ibuprofen, because it also increases your risk of blood clots. So a collateral effect of this legislation is withholding information that very well could harm a woman who's taking contraception. We need to tailor our legislation to be restricted, to protect the people that you truly are trying to protect, and make sure that we don't go too far. I'm not a doctor, I'm not a pharmacist. I can't pretend to understand the chemical reactions between multiple medications. That's not my job. But my job is to make sure a doctor can, in fact, have the information to protect their patient. That's my concern. That's why I'll be voting no. Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator Canzoneri Fitzpatrick, to be recorded in the negative. Announce the results.
In relation to Calendar 140, voted in the negative are Senators Ashby, Canzoneri Fitzpatrick, Chan, Galvin, Griffo, Helming, Lanza, Martins, Batera, Murray, O'Mara, Ort, Palumbo, Rhodes, Stett, Tedisco, Walzek, Weber, and White. Ayes 40, nays 19.
Bill's passed.
Calendar number 751, Senate Print 8624 by Senator Myrie, enact to amend the Civil Practice Law and Rules.
Senator Murray, why do you rise?
Thank you, Mr. President. Would the sponsor yield for a few questions, please?
Will the sponsor yield? Yes. The sponsor yields.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. President. Senator, what does this bill do?
Thank you, Mr. President. This allows for punitive damages to be recovered from an estate. Our current laws prohibit an estate from being subject to punitive damages. And just to give context, in our law, there are three major categories of damages. There are actual damages, there are compensatory damages, excuse me, and then there are punitive damages. The first two are meant to make the plaintiff whole on the actual piece that is for tangible things, out-of-pocket costs. For compensatory, in addition to actual damages, these are things like pain and suffering and emotional distress, intangible things. Punitive damages focuses on the damage done to society, type of activities that we want to discourage, and we not only want to demonstrate in this one case that this is unacceptable, but we want it to be known throughout the community that this is activity we do not want to see. And so this bill, as it relates to estates, individuals who have committed sexual crimes, this would allow for them to recover, the guiding principle being that the harm caused to the victim does not extinguish upon the death of the person who caused that harm, and we have to give them some ability to gain recourse.
President, would the sponsor continue to yield?
Will the sponsor yield?
Yes.
The sponsor yields.
So that was very thorough. My next follow-up question was going to be, why is it necessary? But I think you pretty much answered that one. So I'm going to bring up a scenario, for example, like a Jeffrey Epstein kind of situation here. So in that particular case, if charges were filed against him, sexual abuse charges were filed against him, he's then convicted, goes to jail, is serving his time, and then dies in jail. This would allow you to still go after the estate. Is that correct?
Through you, Mr. President, it would allow for a civil suit to be brought and for civil claims, particularly for punitive damages, to be brought.
Through you, Mr. President, would the sponsor continue to yield?
Will the sponsor yield?
Yes.
Sponsor yields.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. President. In your justification of the bill, and I'm quoting, it says, "This bill seeks to codify the principle that victims of abuse should not be robbed of vindication by the death of their abuser." What do you mean by the term robbed of vindication?
And I think I know where my colleague is going to go on this, but I will answer the question in good faith. That is meant to stand for the proposition that in our civil law, we have punitive damages to discourage particularly egregious activity. As it relates to recovering damages, punitive damages is something that is through our common law that has been developed. The ability for you to not recover from an estate is also based on common law or law created by the courts, not a right found in the Constitution or in other statutes. It is different from the criminal context in which there are constitutional protections for defendants. There are things like presumption of innocence. There are things like due process. These are constitutional protections. In the civil law and in this particular context, there is not a constitutional basis for the prohibition on recovery from an estate.
Thank you. Mr. President, on the bill?
Senator Murray on the bill.
And thank you, Senator Myrie. I was going to ask, and you are correct of where I was going, and I'll explain that. So where I was going to ask, are you familiar with the term abatement ab initio? And I would venture to guess that most people, maybe even in this chamber, don't know what that means. I brought up the issue of Jeffrey Epstein. Abatement ab initio is this. It is a federal doctrine that is handled differently by all states. In New York, we abide by that doctrine. That doctrine says that if someone is charged with a crime, if they are convicted, they've had their day in court, jury of their peers convicts them, they are sentenced, they go to jail. They then file an appeal, but before the appeal is heard, they die, either by suicide or any other means. They pass away and the appeal is not heard. Their conviction under abatement ab initio is wiped clean, does not exist at all. The indictment, wiped cleaned. Everything about it is wiped clean. So I Googled if this applied to Jeffrey Epstein. Here was the answer. The legal doctrine of abatement ab initio did apply to Jeffrey Epstein's federal criminal case. Because Epstein died in August 2019 by suicide in his jail cell while awaiting trial before a final judgment could be issued, the U.S. District Court officially dismissed the pending indictment, and under abatement ab initio, the charges were wiped clean, meaning Epstein died legally innocent of those specific federal charges in the eyes of the law. Why do I bring that up? Well, if the state had filed charges, if he had not passed away and the state filed charges against Jeffrey Epstein, under this same scenario, and he appealed the conviction, he died. The appeal wasn't heard. Everything is wiped out. How easy do you think that civil case would be now? There's nothing to go after him for. He didn't commit a crime. According to the eyes of the law of New York State, there was no crime committed. So good luck with your civil case. Good luck going after these damages. So when you say robbed of vindication, when I talk to many of crime victims, they don't mean money. They don't mean punitive damage. They want justice. They want to know that someone is being held responsible for that crime. Yesterday in the Codes Committee, I had Sarah's Law come up, which addressed abatement ab initio. It was voted down. If that would pass, it would make this bill even stronger. And yet it was shot down. Where is the justice for the victims? So after all of that, I'll say this. I do support this bill. I absolutely do, because I believe that victims, whether it's sexual abuse or otherwise, crime victims deserve their, as you put it, vindication. And while this bill will help it get there, could have been made stronger had we passed Sarah's Law. And it's unfortunate that I think politics got in the way of that. With that said, I will be voting in the affirmative. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator Murray. Are there any other senators wishing to be heard? Seeing and hearing none, debate is closed. Senator Gianaris.
Mr. President, we've also agreed to restore this bill to the non-controversial calendar.
On consent, the bill is restored to the non-controversial calendar. Read the last section.
Section 2, this action take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Adabo, Gianaris, Kruger, Orts, Zellner.
Announce the results.
Ayes 59.
The bill's passed. Senator Gianaris, that completes the reading of the controversial calendar.
Consistent with our practice, we are now taking up resolutions without guests at the end of session. So please take up Resolution 2094 by Senator Clear. Read that resolution's title and call on Senator Clear.
The Secretary read.
Resolution 2094 by Senator Clear, commemorating the 101st birthday of Malcolm X, an advocate for human rights and one of the most influential African-American leaders in history.
Senator Clear on the resolution.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise to pay tribute to one of the most important New Yorkers in the history of the world, El-Hajj Malik El-Shabazz, known to so many as Malcolm X, upon today, his 101st birthday. Malcolm X may have been born in Nebraska, but many of the most essential events of his life happened here in New York State and in the village of Harlem. He spent part of his transformative youth in Harlem from 1943 to 1945. He returned to Harlem in the 1950s to lead Temple No. 7 on West 116th Street in Harlem, which today is known as Masjid Malcolm Shabazz. The birthday of Malcolm X is a very important annual event in New York and throughout other parts of the country. That is because Malcolm's journey and evolution has not only inspired billions of people worldwide, but so many of those people lived the very same experience, took the very same steps, fought against the very same racism and justice, and have paid the ultimate price, much like Brother Malcolm did. The Village of Harlem has always paid tribute to Malcolm X. In 1987, Lenox Avenue was renamed Malcolm X Boulevard. We landmarked the former Audubon Ballroom, where Malcolm was sadly assassinated, and transformed it to the Malcolm X and Dr. Betty Shabazz Memorial Educational Center. 26 years ago, Malcolm X Plaza was dedicated as a gateway from Central Park to West 110th Street in Harlem. And last year, we renamed the underlying subway station, West 110th Street, Malcolm X Plaza Station. As we work and move forward, let us remember Malcolm and his teachings, and I leave you with one of these quotes that strikes me always. I am for truth, no matter who tells it. I am for justice, no matter who it is for. I'm a human being first and foremost, and as such, I'm for whoever and whatever benefits humanity as a whole. I proudly vote aye on the resolution and hope my colleagues do the same. Thank you.
Senator Clear to be recorded in the affirmative. Senator Baskin on the resolution.
Mr. President, I want to thank my good colleague, Senator Claire, for bringing this resolution before our body, and I want to join her in lifting up the legacy of Malcolm X. Malcolm X encouraged people, mainly Black people, to be proud of their identity, their culture, and their history. Through his speeches and his activism, Malcolm X inspired many of us, including myself, to stand up against discrimination and to demand equal treatment. He also helped bring attention to the struggles faced by many African Americans, and he pushed and fought for social change. Now, although his views may have changed over time, one thing is for sure. Brother Malcolm X always believed in human rights and justice for all people. His courage, his leadership, and his message of empowerment continue to inspire people, me chief of them most, today and around our world always. Thank you again, Senator Claire, for this resolution.
Senator Baskin to be recorded in the affirmative. Senator Myrie to explain his vote.
Thank you, Mr. President. I want to thank Senator Claire for bringing this resolution and wishing Malcolm X a happy 101st birthday. You know, this is an important thing, particularly for Black men in this country. We don't get to see our heroes grow old, and too many of them have been taken away from us. So we have to pause and reflect and celebrate anytime those birthdays come up. I know that Malcolm is a son of the village of Harlem. I know that he resided in Queens, but much like he did all across the world, he left an impact in Brooklyn as well. There was the establishment of Temple No. 7C in Bed-Stuy. We had Shabazz Fish Markets and bookstores all across Fulton. So we take a piece of him and we hold him and hug him very closely. And more personally, when SUNY Downstate, a hospital that all of us are familiar with, was being built in the 60s, there were allegations that there was discrimination against Black people trying to get construction jobs. And it was Malcolm X, the Nation of Islam, that made their way to watch the protesters to ensure that they were safe when they were carrying out the message for equality. So we are grateful for the legacy of Malcolm X. My first awakening on civil rights and what was happening in this country came from reading the autobiography of Malcolm X in middle school when I was in 7th grade. So I remain grateful for his legacy. Thank you again, Senator Claire.
Senator Myrie to be recorded in the affirmative. Senator Bailey to explain his vote.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Senator Clear, for this important resolution. Senator Myrie alluded to it, that we don't get to see many black men of import of that era grow old. We lost Martin at 39. We lost Brother Malcolm at 39. Malcolm X was a son of Harlem, but Miss Betty Shabazz, the Queen, lived in Mount Vernon, part of my district, to try to shield her family from some of the things that had happened after the untimely assassination of Brother Malcolm. Malcolm X taught me a lot. He taught me that X was more than a Roman numeral. He taught me that X was for the forgotten portions of our history which we will never reclaim. But learning about who he was and what he stood for and why the name change and why the pilgrimage taught me that there was way more to be learned about who I am as a black man in America than just what the history books have been told. It is appropriate that I no longer believe in coincidences, Mr. President, that the family of one of the plaintiffs for Brown versus Board of Education was here. And Brother Malcolm's, my favorite quote from Brother Malcolm was education. Education is the passport to the future, for tomorrow belongs to those who prepare for it today. Education is the key that will continue to allow us to rise. So Brother Malcolm was not just a talking point, was not just a movie, was not just somebody who is bandied about in the Hausian of a legacy of black folks. He meant a lot to us. And on today, his 101st birthday, we celebrate him in his legacy that will be enduring and will never die. I proudly vote aye on the resolution. I thank my senators, my colleagues, and everybody within the sound of my voice for this resolution. Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator Bailey to be recorded in the affirmative. Senator Parker to explain his vote.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you, Senator Claire, for bringing this resolution to the floor. And I'm glad I'm going to give you less of a debate than I gave it when Bill Perkins brought this resolution to the floor a number of years ago, but that's another conversation. Look, I rise to wish Malcolm a happy birthday and add my voice to the chorus of my colleagues who are doing the same. Senator Clay, I want to, here on Delta Day, you don't understand this, I want to talk about the elephant in the room, which is that Malcolm was a controversial figure. And because he talked about self-determination and self-defense, at a time in which the major conversation and the major images that you saw around the civil rights movement was about the death of civil rights workers and the abuse of those who were fighting, the innocent people who were fighting for simple freedom. And at a time in which the dominant figure, although not loved, was the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King. It was because of the way that white supremacy played itself out in the South versus what you saw in the North, it was a very different ideal. And his conversation was a different conversation, both because he refused to be a victim and because he was also Muslim. It is only in recent time that we have Muslim members of our body. And so the discussion around Islam in our communities was a big deal at that time, and oftentimes put into a stark juxtaposition to Christian ideals, although not very different. And because Malcolm, my favorite phrase was by any means necessary. And I think that in a lot of ways, people take that in more controversial ways than they need to. That Malcolm X was somebody who was a black nationalist. And again, oftentimes that's seen as controversial because people, they want to connect it to violence or conflict. But nationalism was really about saying that black people should have their own nation, that they should operate within a nation within a nation. You find a direct intellectual stream that goes from Booker T. Washington to Marcus Messiah Garvey. People don't realize it, that Marcus Garvey comes here from Jamaica to meet Booker T. Washington. He gets here the year after he's born. After he dies. So Booker T. Washington dies in 1913. Marcus Messiah Garvey gets here in 1914, right? Right before his idol dies, right? Why am I talking about Garvey? Because Garvey creates the largest black organization in the history of the world, the UNIA, the Universal Negro Improvement Association. Who was a member of that organization? The Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And it was the teaching of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad that gave Malcolm his fresh start after he winds up in prison. And so as we talk about one of the very many transformations that Malcolm makes ideologically, the most base one, the most important one, becomes the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, which comes out of Marcus Messiah Garvey, which comes out of Booker T. Washington. But at base, they were like, black people need to have their own. And so that when you talk about these fish stores named Shabazz and churches and newspapers, all of that is about black people having their own, right? And as Booker T. Washington said, in all things social, we should be as separate as the fingers on the hand. In all things economic, we should be as tight as the fist, right? And so it was a radical idea for blacks, especially in the North, where things were a lot more open than they were in the South, a lot more less segregated than they were in the South, right? To have somebody saying, no, we still should have our own. And interestingly enough, in this moment, you now have people saying Malcolm was right. We could continue to have that debate whether it should exist and to what level we should still be segregated or not segregated. But he did represent a really important intellectual conversation that's happening even today in our communities as we look at the denial of African Americans in major white institutions. And so today we say happy birthday. And we thank him for his contribution, for his intrepid bravery and the courage to speak truth to power. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator Parker. Senator Webb on the resolution.
Thank you, Mr. President. I want to thank Senator Clear for not only this resolution that's on the floor today, but Senator Clear has been a tireless advocate and champion for continuing to support Malcolm X's legacy. I had the honor of joining her last year when the subway station was renamed in Harlem, and one of the great things about lifting up this important and prominent leader that is Malcolm X is that still today, many years later, but not that many, right? His legacy and his teachings continue to bring people together and is most certainly advanced through his children and their children. And so I want to thank Senator Clear for always making not only space to connect us members to his family and to the great work, but for always being unwavering in her support and lifting up why today's resolution is so important. And so I know a lot has been said about Brother Malcolm on his birthday today, a lot of great things today. My sister's birthday, one of my sister's birthdays is today. But I'll leave my comments because a lot has been said, just to lift up the fact that Malcolm X was not only an incredible civil and human rights leader, he was a father. He was a husband. Dr. Betty Shabazz, who also I know Senator Parker likes to make the connection, Dr. Betty Shabazz was also a member of Delta Sigma Theta, Sorority Incorporated. We actually have a Betty Shabazz Academy that lifts up young girls to get them connected to leadership. And so their partnership, their union, was most certainly divine, pun definitely intended, but most certainly lifts up the great work that both Malcolm and Dr. Betty Shabazz did to advance, and their legacies continue to move us forward. It is my hope that on us remembering him on his 101st birthday today, that we as a chamber continue to not only encourage our communities to take the time to understand each other, especially those leaders that have left an indelible
print on our communities, not just here in New York, not just in our country, but most certainly internationally, because Malcolm believed that the struggle of Black Americans was inseparable from the global fight for a very important thing, and that is human dignity. And he dedicated his life to building a more just and hopeful world. And so, whether we see his name on landmarks, books, movies, street signs, may it just remind us of the work that we all need to do to work towards creating a world that we know we all deserve. And I'll end my remarks with this quote from Malcolm X, and he says, "We need more light about each other. Light creates understanding, understanding creates love, love creates patience, and patience creates unity." Mr. President, I proudly vote aye on this resolution, and I want to thank Senator Claire for her advocacy. Happy birthday, Malcolm X, and continued support to his family. Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator Webb to be recorded in the affirmative. The question is on the resolution. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. The resolution is adopted. Senator Gianaris.
And now let's take up Resolution 2104 by Senator Cooney. Read that resolution's title and call on Senator Cooney, please.
Secretary will read.
Resolution 2104 by Senator Cooney, memorializing Governor Kathy Hochul to proclaim June 2026 as Alzheimer's and Brain Awareness Month in the state of New York.
Senator Cooney on the resolution.
Thank you, Mr. President. When I was 30 years old and finishing law school right here in Albany, my mother was diagnosed with frontotemporal dementia, a form of dementia which, like many, helps a person change, where they start losing their memory, their ability to be an independent thinker, and of course, the most painful moment of my life when my mother forgot my name. This coming month of June is an opportunity for us to remember that it is Alzheimer's and Brain Awareness Month. And over 400,000 New Yorkers, Mr. President, live with Alzheimer's or a form of dementia here in New York. And of course, this number is expected to increase in the coming years. That's why I was so proud to work across the aisle with my friend, Senator Allison, to officially recognize this month in New York State. Alzheimer's and Brain Awareness Month is about providing support to those already suffering from the disease. And like so many in New York, we have an opportunity to stand up for those who are suffering from this disease, but also caretaking for others with this disease, and to spread awareness for the need for continued research in institutions like my own University of Rochester. We must find a cure. This disease is worthy of us spending resources to find that cure and to change lives for future generations of New Yorkers. Mr. President, I vote aye.
Senator Cooney to be recorded in the affirmative. Senator Rollison to explain on the resolution, excuse me.
Thank you, Mr. President, and to my friend and colleague, Senator Cooney, thank you for giving me this opportunity to share this message with all of us here in this chamber and to all the individuals who are living with this disease and the caregivers. My personal journey started in 1981 when my mom's mom, my Nana, came to live with us. And because she had been found, she lived in Morristown, New Jersey, first she had bought a car that we didn't know about, and then she didn't need one, but she bought one. And then the Danville, New Jersey police called my mother one day and said, "Your mother was driving here in Danville and she didn't know where she was going," and that was how it started. At the time, I was a brand new cop. I was 22 years old, and she came and she lived with us, and you could tell something was different with my Nana. But we didn't know, or my mom didn't talk about it. If she knew, I certainly didn't. And so eventually she got ill and she passed at one of the hospitals in Poughkeepsie, and it was after that we started to maybe understand a little bit something was going on with her. And then fast forward many years here now today, and last week my friend Sherry Davies was here to receive the Frank Carlino Award for being an advocate for the early onset of dementia. And then 2 years ago, Mr. President, when Senator Cooney had introduced this resolution and I was able to speak on it, Chris and Sherry were both here. And as I had said last week, Chris is not here because so many things have changed for Christopher literally in the past 4 or 6 months. And so when you look at the statistics of the individuals who are living with Alzheimer's, 7.4 million people living with Alzheimer's disease and dementia and brain-related challenges in 2026. 427,000 of those individuals right here in this state. And the majority of them, 427,000 are over the age of 65 in New York State. Christopher is 57. And so we're seeing also too, Mr. President, more individuals actually being recognized with early onset. And Sherry actually said last week when she was receiving the award from the Alzheimer's Association that Christopher probably had the early signs that she didn't recognize when he was in his 40s, not too long after he and I were working together. So, Mr. President, I'll end with this. Again, Senator Cooney, thank you for bringing this to the floor. And you had talked about the caregivers. 776,000 caregivers providing 1.3 billion hours of unpaid care, and 61.2% actually live with chronic illnesses themselves. And 20% of those caregivers are living with depression. We need to give the caregivers the support so they can give the care to their loved ones, because behind all of these numbers and all of these statistics are people, family members, relatives, and neighbors who are doing the very best that they can for their loved ones and their friends and their neighbors, and we need to support them. And today, we are actually honoring them, Mr. President, and I proudly vote aye on this resolution. Thank you.
Senator Rollison to be recorded in the affirmative. Senator Martins on the resolution.
Thank you, Mr. President. You know, I rise to support the legislation. I want to thank, or the resolution, I want to thank the sponsors. Alzheimer's, Mr. President, is curable. The leaps and bounds in terms of medical breakthroughs over the course of the last half a dozen to 10 years alone show us that there's a path forward for us finding a cure and providing relief to 7.4 million people and their loved ones and families and communities that love them. There probably is no more insidious disease that inflicts our constituents here in New York than someone forgetting who they are, forgetting their loved ones, forgetting their environment, and losing themselves within themselves in this way. And so, one, I want to thank the sponsors again for the resolution. I recall a colleague of ours who was here with us some years ago, Senator Fischillo, who for the last 12 years has been president of the the Alzheimer's Foundation of America, and has been doing remarkable work in terms of promoting and sponsoring and paying for research. But maybe, just maybe, when we start thinking about those things and that we do, especially during a budget cycle, that this can be a priority that we set for New York State. That maybe the gift that New York can give the world is investing significantly in research to find a cure for Alzheimer's, because by all indications, Mr. President, they're right there. The research is taking place all across the country, all across the world, in research centers. But unfortunately, so much of that research and so much of that cutting-edge research isn't taking place here, but it's taking place elsewhere. And with the resources that this state has, with the research facilities that we have, the access to knowledge, the university systems that we have here in this state, perhaps this is our opportunity, our moonshot, our opportunity to provide a gift to the world and finally find a cure for this insidious disease. Perhaps a challenge to all of us, Mr. President. I vote aye.
Senator Martins to be recorded in the affirmative. The question is on the resolution. All those in favor, please signal. Senator Gennardis on the resolution.
Thank you, Mr. President.
You know, they call Alzheimer's the long goodbye. And that's not because of the patient who is slowly drifting away. It's the long goodbye for the caregivers and the family members who have to see their loved one slowly lose who they are. And you say goodbye to them over a very long period of time. It could be months, it could be years. You see them slip away, and sometimes the patient doesn't even know, but you know because you see that change in them, that degradation in them over the years. My grandfather passed away from Alzheimer's when I was 3 years old. And when I was a child, when I was a baby, and I was brought home by my parents from the hospital, he had already lost the ability to recognize and say people's names. He didn't know who his daughter was, who his wife was, could barely speak. But when my mother brought me to him, he somehow managed to know that I was the baby of the house. He said, "Tu spitiu" in Greek, which means he's of the household. And it's remarkable because we don't even know exactly why people suffer this terrible, terrible fate and this terrible disease, and we can't understand why these faculties go in the order they go in, but somehow, through some miracle, he knew that I was the baby of the house. And, you know, I remember, you know, the few memories I have when I was 3 years old, I still remember him in his bed, and I remember the care that my mother had to give to him, my grandmother had to give to him, and the toll it took. You know, Senator Rollison talked about the caregivers. The toll it took on my family and on so many other families while they are saying that very long and very painful goodbye. And I think Senator Martins is right. We could do a lot more across the board for all of us, more awareness, more support, more funding, more research, more understanding, more talking about this. You know, not just for the 400,000 New Yorkers, not just for the 7.8 million Americans, for the 50+ million people around the world whose loved ones are slowly saying the long goodbye to them. I want to thank Senator Cooney and Senator Rollison, and I vote in the affirmative. Thank you.
Senator Gennardis will be recorded in the affirmative. Senator Clear to explain her vote.
Seems like I'm saying a lot today, Mr. President, but I do have to say a few words about Alzheimer's as chair of the Aging Committee. It's a subject that I run into a lot. We've talked about it in the committee many times. As we look to the research, we have to look in different areas. I recently participated in a panel where it was pointed out that 2/3 of the people with Alzheimer's are women. Yet very little research has been done around that, and it was simply attributed to women live longer. And it is only now, just now, that there's a taken into account of periods, menopause, childbearing, and just the function of women in general throughout their lives and the changes that their bodies go through, physically, emotionally, and mentally. So as we, and I think we're absolutely right, and Senator Cooney, thank you for bringing this resolution up, because we do have to increase awareness. I participate in the walk every year in Central Park, because we also have to lift the stigma as well. And when you look in communities like mine, there's a big stigma attached to Alzheimer's. People don't talk about it. People are ashamed of it, embarrassed by it. So we do have to speak about it. I sit in a seat where my predecessor, who many of you know I worked for, Bill Perkins, suffered with Alzheimer's and ultimately passed away. So I encourage us to continue beyond today to talk about it, to encourage others who are going through it, caregivers. Give them a hug sometime. Give them a call sometime. And if you can, sit with them and sit for them sometime so they can get a break, because it's a very hard and difficult thing, not just the strenuousness of taking care of someone like that, but as Senator Gennardis pointed out, it is a long goodbye, and it's heartbreaking and it's hurtful to those who watch their loved ones suffer. So thank you again, and I proudly vote aye, Senator Cooney. Thank you.
Senator Clear to be recorded in the affirmative. The question is on the resolution. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay. The resolution is adopted. Senator Gennardis.
Mr. President, the sponsors of the resolutions we just took up would like to open them for co-sponsorship.
The resolutions are open for co-sponsorship. Should you choose not to be a sponsor, please notify the desk. Senator Janaris.
Mr. President, there's going to be a conference of the majority conference immediately following session, and please call on Senator Lanza for an announcement for the minority conference.
The majority conference will be conferencing immediately after session. Senator Lanza.
Thank you, Senator Janaris. Mr. President, there will be an immediate meeting of the Republican Conference in room 315 of the Capitol building.
There will be an immediate meeting of the Republican Conference in room 315 of the Capitol. Senator Janaris.
Is there any further business at the desk?
There is no further business at the desk.
I move to adjourn until tomorrow, Wednesday, May 19th at 2 p.m.
On motion, the Senate stands adjourned until Wednesday, May 20th at 2 p.m. It's game one. Go New York, go New York, go!